Mic check, mic check.
Check 1 2.
Mic check, mic check. All right. As far as I can tell, we should be good. And then video. All right, so I'll just start out with like the stuff. So as far as the show, I haven't come up with like a name for the show yet, but we'll figure it out going from there. And then
Chilling with iceberg. There you go.
chilling with iceberg has been like everybody messaged me
right.
that shit. I got that shit like I don't know how many times people like
just,
messaging me. So I think I'm just gonna go on like Fiverr or something and just have someone make me like a logo.
Well, I was
thing.
gonna say if you're the iceberg that sunk the Titanic, it'd be chilling. But if you're like iceberg lettuce, then you could be like chopping it up with ice cube.
Chopping it up, right?
Iceberg.
Either one. I know for the music part, I definitely want to do it to where, what do you call it? It's from songs and stuff. People say iceberg a lot, especially like in rap.
Right.
So I figured I would somehow like say chillin', and then instead of me saying iceberg, it'd be like the audio of the rap song saying iceberg. So tell us. Obviously, I know you. So what you been up to, and what should like people know about you as far as the role you play in comedy?
I wasn't there that night. I promise. No, but I mean, I've been doing comedy. God, 14 years now, probably. I think I made my debut 2008 New Year's Eve, and it was cool because it was I was scary as hell because I'd never done it, never expected to do it, and then Jim Trino. Jim Trino is a crazy local comic, powerhouse comic that can rock pretty much any crowd. He talked me into doing it. I wrote a bunch of jokes to give to him, and he was like, "I'm not going to do them. You're going to do them." Well, let me go back. I wrote a bunch of jokes saying, "Hey, I got some ideas. If you want to use them, you can take them." And he's like, "All right, cool. Write them out." So I spent a couple months writing and writing and writing. And when I thought they were good enough to present to him, I'm like, "Here you go, Jim. If you want them, use them. If not, don't worry about it." And he looked at them and he read them and never made any facial expression or anything. And I was like, "Okay, these jokes are not that good." And then he hands them back to me. He goes, I was like, "Okay." I start wadding them up literally and throw them in his fire pit. And he goes, "No, what are you doing?" I go, "Well, you didn't make any reaction or anything, so I figured they were no good." He goes, "No, they're good, but they're not my jokes, so I can't do them." And I go, "No, you can do them. I'm giving them to you."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "No, I can't do them." I go, "Yeah, I'm telling you, you can do them. I don't want to do them." He goes, "No, you're gonna do them." I go, "No, I'm not." "Yeah, you are." "No, I'm not gonna do them." So it took about a month of him convincing me to try it, and then once I did, I was like, "Okay, I'll try it." So he goes, "I'm gonna get you on a show. I just don't know when." So a couple months go by, and then he finally hits me up. He goes, "Hey, we got a show on New Year's Eve, Narcotics Anonymous, sober celebration. You're gonna come do the show." And I'm like, "All right, cool." Thinking it'd be, a handful of people, whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I get there and there's 500 people there, packed in a basement under a church. And like all my jokes are cuss words and sex and this and that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to hell tonight. But it was the first time I ever went up. I did 15 minutes and absolutely destroyed. Those people were so much fun to work with and perform for because they're happy to be alive, so they laugh at anything. So I did 15 minutes and I did really well. And I thought when I left the place, I'm going on HBO tomorrow, going on Showtime, doing a special for Comedy Central.
Why did you think that? Because of
just the way the reaction went.
the
Yeah,
reaction.
I mean, I was drunk. They didn't know that, but no, I mean the reception, the way they treated me, everything was like, dude, I felt like a celebrity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was the first time I really felt like that, and it was like the craziest feeling.
I know Bakersfield, just for the time that I've been here trying to do comedy, and from meeting other people as yourself and other people who've done comedy here, who've done booking here, it seems like there's always been like a history of like drama and people not cooperating. So what do you think with comedy growing? Now we have two clubs here in Bakersfield.
Definitely gotten better. It's mended a lot. There was, when I first started, there was a small handful of promoters. Myself, a guy named Tyson Paul, and then, Icon was just starting off, and they were doing the Fox, and guys like me and Tyson were doing small places, trying to make a name for ourselves, and then there was another handful of comics that kind of divided themselves right away, and I don't know what started it. To be honest with you, I never really got into it.
Um, and I think for the people who are listening who maybe aren't in the comedy, like I have 20,000 viewers or some shit, right?
Right.
It's just gonna be my mom
All
listening.
six of you take notes.
All six of you take notes, fuckers. Um, I think this isn't an issue as far as the I don't even know the rivalry. I don't. It's not just Bakersfield. I mean, this is common in
Oh
L.A.,
yeah, it's
Chicago,
everywhere.
like everywhere. You know. So it's not
It's
to say
all
like,
over the
oh,
world.
fucking Bakersfield comics don't. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And people do that shit where they fuck each other over. They burn people. They burn venues. Um, I think that's one of the hardest things when I first started was how people in the past had burned a venue, or
Right.
how promoters in the past had burned comedians, and so it's like you gotta get over that obstacle, and then after that you have like these fucking high school gangs, trying to tell you you can't perform here, you can't perform there, putting conditions on you, and
Right.
and I feel bad for the people who and it hasn't been, I wouldn't say like consistently, would have been like two or three people tell me this, and it's like at the end of the day, it's like those places need you, and if you were to like wrap your head around it, that then you don't need them, they need you. Maybe like people would get a little bit along better, and people get a little bit better deals. And then after that, we'll just talk about all the stuff you want to promote, the show, the um, open mics, all this stuff that's going on.
Pretty much.
Do you believe aliens are real?
You know, dude, I wonder. I would like to see one. To be honest with you, I know ghosts are real. I've experienced that shit. So I'm like, why not? Let's try an alien. Although I'm not, I don't think I'm redneck enough to get abducted.
No.
Yeah, I don't drive on freaking lonely country roads by myself in the middle of the night, all spun out on meth to get abducted.
Um, I don't know about aliens, bro.
I wonder. There's got to be something, dude. There's got to be something.
Well, I think a lot of it is a lot of it's just potheads fucking trying to get in your head. But I think
Right, but
there's a part of me that in every of those arguments where people talk about aliens and metaverse, like nobody nobody touches on the fact that those are just theories. That there's nothing like
oh right,
nobody's
yeah,
proved any of that shit. But people would be like in the multiverse, and I'd be like, well, like, that's a theory. It's not
right,
necessarily something that we're like trying to tap into, that we understand, or that we know is to be true. Rather, it's just based on like some people's. I couldn't even tell you how they formulated that fucking idea.
right.
What is it based on? I don't fucking know. You know, but people will talk about aliens and they'll say like, well, there's an infinite universe, so there's an infinite possibility. I was like, well, yeah, well, you're talking about infinite, then yeah, you could probably argue for anything being
Right,
possible.
yeah.
But if we were to say that, it's just not. I don't know. It's just not likely.
Well, I heard a theory one time that if you look at close-up pictures of the moon, it looks like there's ocean beds on the moon, right? From
Yeah.
where there was water. This guy's theory was a comet or a meteor or something hit the moon hard enough that it threw it out of balance, and then the water poured from the moon to the Earth, and that's how we got the oceans here. And I was like, maybe, but I mean
That
that's a
that
lot of water though,
that's a lot of water, and that person should probably be like castrated.
right?
Yeah, like um,
But yeah, no,
I, I
I trip out on
I trip out on the part about like how you think about like why aliens, or why the fuck do they visit us, but then as you see us progressing, and then like, especially like in the last like 200 years, where we've gone from dirty water, and shit and trash everywhere, and like transportation being very limited to like where we're at now, and the fact that we're trying to like throw shit on the moon to figure out to manufacture, like we're just gonna spit shit out into the moon, and then it's gonna manufacture shit and
it.
bring
Right.
stuff to us, and then we're gonna go to other planet. We're taking pictures. We're doing like I don't know what to call it, but like reconnaissance on like other planets to like see what we can do with it, how we're gonna fuck with it, um,
Right.
and it's like. Well, isn't that aliens? Like,
Well,
isn't that what we're thinking the aliens are doing? Is just like they're
right.
coming around, checking it out, seeing what we got. Like, hey, there's humans here. Maybe we shouldn't fuck with them because they got their own rules. We say that. I don't know how, but somehow they got rules. Um, to like or another thing, like kind of like that movie Mars, where like they're trying to just take you know incubate people on another planet and then see what happens, and it's like what's to say we couldn't do that ourselves, where like we shoot this ship out to this planet, we incubate a child, and then we just give a robot that nurtures it, like acts like a human and nurtures it, and then that next generation just kind of starts off people, like I don't know. I just trip out on like how all that shit's possible with like the things that we're doing,
Right.
but at the end of the day, like at the same time, like they got all this AI shit and all these robots and stuff, and I'm like, what's to say that they're not gonna just lie to us and say that these aliens are not robots?
Right. Or what if we're just their big sick science experiment? You know, it just got out of hand, and now they come back to see how bad it's gotten, and they're like, "Fuck this, I'm out."
Right?
I mean, I'll let them see me,
They
but
just
I ain't gonna stop and land it.
they just blow it up.
You know, like you get the little ant farms, and the ants are crawling through the dirt and everything, and they don't really do much other than that. And I think we were their ant farm. That
But
the
like we
glass
get
got broken and grew out of control, and now they're like, "These fucking people are crazy. I'm not gonna land there." That's why they fly over shithole towns all the time.
I like how the people who are like the biggest pushers for like aliens are the people who are like the most like disrespect to humankind, because it's like,
Right.
oh, aliens are real, bro, like these people came and they taught us this stuff and they had like technology, and I'm like, but yet like you want to spend 16 hours in front of the TV and not be productive.
Right.
It's like instead of saying like, dude, like how much technology we have, how much cool things we have, let's move forward and do something cool with it, and people just kind of they're just like, nah, fool, I'm just
So
gonna.
they're probably that's why they come in and check on us, make sure we haven't found them yet, because they don't want to get found. Because they know we're stupid enough, we'll go try to take over.
Do you think aliens are racist? Like, why do they only fuck with white people?
I don't know.
Like, and they're not
Is it
like,
just white people or meth heads?
well, this is the thing. This is the thing too. Like, I trip out on, because like, it seems like if let's just say that scenario aliens are real and they visit us and they give us technology, right? So you have the Egyptians who like, okay, they got technology and they built all these crazy shit. You have Mesoamerica, or like, they say aliens came and taught them all kinds of shit and built them these pyramids and stuff and taught them all that. And
Right.
then you have white people and just like they stick shit up our asses.
Right. Yeah, that's it.
So I'm like, what do the aliens have beef with white people? Like,
Right.
they don't ever like impart them with any kind of knowledge and shit. It's always just like they probe me,
Yeah, maybe aliens are doctors, because that seems to be all they do anymore is shove shit up your ass.
or or it's like white people a fetish for aliens,
Maybe.
and they're just like probing all these white people. And like, do we need to like protect white people? Like, should we like
We need to
should
go and do some meth in the middle of the forest or middle of the desert somewhere and
like yeah how much
experiment, right?
how much meth do you think you have to smoke to call aliens to like conjure up aliens? How much meth does it take?
I don't know. I wish Jim was here. We could ask him. Oh, Jim had a video one time though of some freaking. Oh man, dude, they were at the coast, and it was just there was something in the sky. I don't know what it was, but he got video of it, and it's like flying erratically, and it's a trip. But with Jim, who knows? It might have been a fly in front of his camera. It just
Who knows? And especially with like that we're just gonna get stuck on aliens and shit. I
right.
think they're setting us up for telling us there's aliens, and there's no aliens. It's just like
Maybe
robots. It's just robot race and like
right.
it's like holograms and shit, reptilian people.
That's
So
how easy he came back.
what do you call it? So we've established that meth heads have a connection with aliens. Also, other people that I feel have a connection with aliens are gonna people who don't know how to take pictures. Like, why do those
Yeah,
people always be the ones
shitty
that?
video people.
Why are they're like the worst? They're the
Oh,
worst. Like, what? They'll fucking put the camera down to look at it with their own faces. Like, nah, keep the camera on there, fool.
right.
Like,
Or they shake so bad it looks like a freaking earthquake going on in the background.
the worst cameramen are the people who get are we're gonna get the best shot
Same
ever.
thing with all the Bigfoots and all that shit too. Like somebody's got out of all the sightings, somebody's got to have at least one clear picture. But no, it's all fucking blur.
If that famous video of of Sasquatch walking across that like the lake looking shit of the
Yeah.
forest, would you have been filming that, or you have boned out as soon as that fucker looked at you? Because you know that motherfucker's looking at him when he turns. He's like,
Oh
he
yeah.
looks at him. He's just having a walk. I'm like, nah. That
I'd been
if
walking
that shit was
back.
a predator, it would have like,
I'd
like
been
came
walking
at you, bro.
backwards for sure. You know what I mean? And then yeah, as soon as that thing looked over, I'd been like, okay, I'm out.
Have you ever
It
come
would look like
across anything
it
like
would
that?
look like that movie. What was that movie? The Blair Witch Project. You see me running with my phone in my hand, just seeing the
Fucking
ground going.
boogers coming out and shit,
Right,
crying.
yeah. Crying and shit. I never came across like a predator like that. I I do have a crazy story that happened though.
Other than Frank.
No, yeah, right. Yeah. Thank God I was out of his age range. Thank God I aged out when I met that dude. If
Oh,
I'd have been in high school, it'd have been a different story probably.
I've been
But
up on. You would have been on your shit.
right, but no. We went one time. A bunch of us. We went up to the hot springs, the natural hot springs, and we went out to just party and hang out and sit in the shitty smelling water. But they're supposed to be good for you, right? So like fuck it, let's go up there and drink, And we're like, all right, cool. So probably 6 or 8 of us went up there, and we go down. You have to hike down a hill to get down there, and we hike down the hill, and there's a big rock in the middle if you've never been there, and there's a big hot tub pool on one side, and then around on the other side there's like two little pools, and so we start walking up there, and there's candles all around the big one, and we see two people in there, but we didn't really look. We just like, oh hey, sorry, and just went around the other side. Well, the rock's big enough that it divides it pretty good. So we're on the other side, and all of a sudden we hear shit up on top of the rock. And we're like, what the hell? And we look up, and this dude is just looking over off the top of the rock. And we're like, what the fuck? So nobody wanted to get in. Everyone's like kind of standing back, and then we really didn't have nothing with us other than a fucking like our ice chest. So we're like, what are we gonna do if this dude comes after us? So everybody started picking up rocks and shit, right? We're getting ready to go to war with this dude, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden he jumps, dude, right in the middle, and off the rock, and boom, and he's got a fucking like a jumpsuit on, kind of like Jason and
This was looking like a horror movie. I was like, what
dude,
the
yeah,
fuck? Is
no,
he like
seriously, watch. So
chest
yeah,
open and shit?
so no, it was just like he was like in a mechanic jumpsuit, right? And it was like, and he just looked at us and kind of nodded and walked away. And we're like, what the fuck, And it's like,
Fucking
all right.
weirdo.
So we're like, do we stay? Do we go? What do
Sketchy
we
as
do?
fuck.
Right? And we're still sitting there. We're debating. We're drinking a beer, and it's like, all of a sudden, up in the hill to the side of us, we start hearing something going through the brushes and stuff. And it was definitely somebody big or something big. The chances of it being an animal late at night was pretty unlikely, unless it was a bear. But really, in that area, there's not. I don't think there's any bears. So we figured it was a dude, right? And it's going across from where he walked away this way, and now it's coming back across this way.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, fuck this, let's go, because this shit's crazy. And then we walk back by, and I just glance over, and the two people are still kicking it there. I mean, look like they were kicking it there, right? So we leave. We get up to the top, and dude starts yelling like weird shit at us, like "How's the water?" and just weird shit, right? We start throwing rocks down there and stuff. No one weren't even gonna get close.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my buddies had a gun in the car. He's like, "Well, I'm getting it out in case that dude comes up here while we're backing up." But nothing. He never showed up or anything. So we freaking bailed, right? 2 weeks later, I think it was on Unsolved Mysteries or something. There was a fucking cult scene at that place, and the two people in the big pool were freaking sacrificed, and they were just there floating in the candles and shit, and they were looking for leads and all kinds of stuff on that, and I was like, whoa, we were right in the middle of that shit. Yeah,
Dude, that could have been like.
that's the closest I've been to Bigfoot.
Stupid.
Right.
Oh man. No, there's definitely. I think some of the jobs I've had and the kind of like the backgrounds that you get on people, because doing social work as well, like.
Right.
You get a picture of somebody and you learn how to look up information on people that is open to the public, but then also because of the job that you have a little bit more access to certain things.
Right.
And there's people with like crazy twisted people, man, with rights.
Yeah.
Yeah, his whole thing was fucking nuts too. I mean,
I sat right next to that dude at the roast battle.
the roast battle.
Right next to him. Remember that?
That's true.
Yeah, dude. But thank God I was too old.
My conversations with him were so limited. I think I talked to him maybe 2-3 times, just going to the open mic, and then there was the point where he was kind of trying to find someone to do the First Friday comedy shows, and I still remember the conversation. It was fucking hilarious, and that kind of that ties back to people calling like, "Hey, I was working on that spot before you," or "I had commitment," like so.
That was Tyson's gig, right? I think it was Tyson was doing the First Fridays.
I think you know what? I think you're right. I think he had done some shows there.
He did for sure, because me and him were would do. I would do 1 month. He would do the next, kind of like not planned, but it's just kind of how it worked out.
That is right. I think that was one of the only spots doing comedy at that time.
It was
And
there, and then I started doing Prime Cut,
true.
and then
And then I think what happened was I had been going to the open mics, and I was sitting at the bar having a drink, and Boydston was there talking to Frank, and Frank's like, "Hey Boydston, can you do First Fridays?" And Boyston's like, "Yeah, yeah, I could do First Fridays." He's like, "Okay, can you do this First Friday coming up?" And he's like, now can we do? How about Sunday?" And then he's like, "Well, I'm looking for someone to do First Fridays. Can you do the First Friday?" He's like, "How about Saturday?" And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, but I'm not gonna be here on this day. So how about we do it on the 14th?" Some shit like, you know. And I was just like sitting there having a drink, and I was like, "This is fucking hilarious."
oh right,
Like they're both talking past each other. Though Frank's trying to tell him like, "I'm not looking to book a different day or a
yeah,
different, you know.
First Friday.
I want to book First Friday. Can you do First
I want
Friday?" And
First Friday on Sunday.
he's like, "Nah, I want to call dibs, but I don't have any availability to do it." You know, kind of. And so I'm just listening there. I'm laughing, and I think Boyson's like, "Well, let me think about it." You know, some shit like that.
Right.
But I can't do it this month because I got to show he was gonna go out of town or something like that.
Oh
And so I think I'm sitting there, and I'm laughing, and Frank's kind of like listening to me laugh. And then we started talking, and I was like, "I'll do it. I'll fucking do it if you wanted to do it this month."
yeah.
And then that's how I ended up doing that show.
Nice.
But it was more just him like being reluctant to do the damn fucking show in the first place
Right.
that opened up the opportunity. And
Boyson's got strong, dude. He's funny. He's doing
he
really
shaved the
well.
beard.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
He's a goofy looking dude, but
Yeah,
he's funny, man. He's been doing it. Fuck,
he's
probably
been
like
doing it almost
12,
as long as
13
me.
years,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
almost
quite
me.
a
Yeah.
while.
Me and him are the OGs, and then Joe Alaniz is still around. He's still doing.
You know, I never really caught on to Joe. I know he does the Timber, and
Yeah.
that's really the only spot that I usually see him is
He'll
when he
pop
shows
in a
up to
well every
there.
once in a while, or if he gets on a show. But he's got Timber wrapped up now that Chris moved, and it's still doing well from what I hear. I don't get out on Wednesdays a lot, so
Yeah, it seems like you can. That's the only night really here you can catch two open mics. You can talk about the show you got coming up and the comedian you'll have.
next Saturday, September 17th, I got a world-renowned comedy hypnotist coming from. He had a 15-year residency in Vegas until COVID hit. Since COVID, he's been headlining a lot of comedy clubs like the Improvs and whatnot. Guy named Justin Trans. He's been on TV almost. He's the most televised hypnotist in the world to this day. Uh, he was on Any Viva La Bam fans. He was on there. He actually hypnotized Rab himself. And I remember watching that episode. And then when I started talking to him and he sent me his reel, I was like, oh, that's where I know you from. But yeah, no, world renowned hypnotist. Puts on a great show. He's been hired to work with like the NBA players to get their game focused. He worked with the Russian national team for the last Summer Olympics to get them focused, and he does a lot of like side jobs with boxers and different things. But dude, funny. He's hilarious. He, like you said, he'll drop you on the stage and make you do stupid shit. But coming with them is a guy named Daryl Blackshear,
Mm-hmm.
who has a big family here in Bakersfield, big following here in Bakersfield. Very, very funny comedian. He is strong as hell on stage. I've had him a few times, and every time I've had him, he's absolutely destroyed the place. And then opening the show, I got a Demario Johnson, her DJ. He's here from Bakersfield.
He's another comedian's
He's
kid,
another.
right? If I understood correctly.
I don't know.
I want to say, isn't he DJ something's kid? You know what I hate about being so busy sometimes is that I fucking know everybody by their IG names, and their fucking
Right.
IG names are not relevant to their comedy names.
Right. No, I don't. Not that I'm aware of. I don't know. I worked with him a little bit with that past project, and I went to a few shows that he's been on. Strong local comedian, doing good things. He's traveling up and down California a lot, doing a lot of the comedy clubs and getting on these cool shows. So definitely going to be a fire show. I mean, it's going to be top to bottom, just packed with funny and for sure.
Where can people buy their tickets?
So the show's at the Well. They can buy the tickets online at eventbrite.com. Just look up, All In Comedy or E Rounder Productions, as you see. Um, they can buy them online. They can buy them from me if they hit me up on Facebook or Instagram under E-Rounder Comedy Productions, either one. And, and Eventbrite's easy. Or they can buy them at the door unless something happens and it sells out before now and then, which I'm hoping. But if not, they'll be available at the door. They're $20. And then it'll be a great show, guaranteed.
And then, so $20 is there the two drink minimum or two items? No minimums.
Obviously, the club wants to make some money too, so
yeah.
They do have food. They do have drinks. They have well drinks. They got beer, wine, and then regular soft drinks and stuff.
So they can get their tickets online. They can. What about at the door? Is there a different price for out the door?
$20 at the door, still.
$20 at the door as well.
And I might have a ticket special between now and then. I haven't decided yet, but we'll see. I might do a 2 for $30 or something. So if you hear it and you want to reach out, tell me you heard it on this thing, and I'll give you the 20 for 30.
That's what's up.
22 for 30. 20 for 30 would be like, oh, I'm here with my family and our next door neighbors and their family. But no, 2 for 30 if you hit me up and say you heard it on this podcast. But you want to know it's a trip? Have you watched the Ghost Hunters on the Comedy Store?
No, I haven't seen like any episode of that, but I know people have talked about ghosts at the Comedy Store.
Right. So
they said there's a guy there's a piano guy and then there's a top hat guy.
Well, the first time I went, and I'm getting the children I'm talking about, seriously. Like, look, see the goosebumps? Like,
you scaring the dogs, bro?
I know. Right? But no, the first time we went, we got there early. We're doing the belly room, which is the one upstairs in the back.
Yeah.
And we got there early, and it was me and Joey. And we're talking to the girl that's putting on the show.
I like when people are like, I played the Comedy Store. It's like, get your belly ass room over
But,
non-main room, motherfucker.
Right. But so she gave us a tour of the place, right? We went downstairs and went through the kitchen and everything. And it used to be a mobster place.
Yeah, it was like a speakeasy kind of situation.
They had, like, dancers up on top in the belly room area. And then the mobsters would get them pregnant, banging them after the show and whatnot. And so they would get pregnant, and so downstairs they had their little freaking
abortion
clinic.
I heard about that, yeah.
And dude, it was a trip, like talking about it and going through it. Like nothing really stood out to me then. It gave me the chills, but we went and did the main room, and the main room with the oval stage or the round stage where Richard Pryor did his special with the neons in the background and everything. So we're doing that show, right? And I didn't know anything about this at the time. But I go out there and you walk out and the stage goes around you, so the people are literally, back here and going all the way around. Well, the people in the middle were just all kind of like just, they were there, but they weren't there, you know what I mean? But the people on the sides were laughing, so I'm like, okay, which way do I go? I got to go back and forth to work the crowd because these people in the middle are just like, whatever. And every comic that went up that night kept saying, dude, the middle of the audience is dead, what's up? So, and the reason why it gives me the chills so bad thinking about it is I watched that Ghost Hunter adventure, and Jay Moore comes on right at the beginning, and he's talking about the main room, and he's like, I'll be out there killing it. And I'm looking at the crowd, and they look like they're freaking lifeless. And I'm like, I started putting it together, and I'm like, dude, that's how it was. He said the whole middle of the audience would just be there like dead. And he goes, I don't know what it is, and then that dude, that hair instantly stood up on my arms, and when he said that, I was like, holy shit.
I heard this one from Bobby Lee. He was talking to Joey Diaz on his podcast, and he was talking about how one day, I think he came in, like he either went back to the Comedy Store, like he stepped out and came back in, or he just popped in, whatever situation. When he popped in that last time, he said he caught a bunch of comedians doing a seance.
Oh, really?
He peeped in and he saw that they were like wearing robes and they were like in a circle and they were doing a seance and they were calling on what's his name, Andy Kaufman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were calling on Andy Kaufman after he had died, and Bobby Lee said that I don't know if I'm adding to it, but something about like there was kind of like a seance and they had skulls and shit, and then that he saw them all walking downstairs, and when they had finished and they were walking downstairs, they were just regular people, and he saw all their faces, and he was like he didn't want to name anybody, but he was like, yeah, they were all there, and they were all like trying to invoke Andy Kaufman and get his like comedy style and his comedy to like they wanted to get possessed by him and like be funny.
Right.
And I was just like, man, people are fucking nuts, bro.
That's crazy. I didn't. Yeah. I think I've heard something mentioned about that once, but yeah, no, dude. That what Jay Moore was talking about, dude, just freaked me out. It's exactly what I experienced on that stage. And just people were just whatever in the middle.
I did the belly room. That's the only one I did. I got booked back in like 2015 or something like that. I got booked by this one guy who himself got booked and he wanted me to open up.
Nice.
And so I went and did the show, and he had told me I think a month beforehand. He was like, "Hey, I got a show on this date. It gives you about a month out. You think you can do?" I think he said like 10 minutes, and I was like, "Yeah, for sure."
Right.
And he's like, "Yeah, I see that you're always working on the set. You're always telling new jokes, building up everything. So I figured in about a month you'd be good." I was like, "Yeah, cool." So I show up, a fight breaks out, and the fight breaks out, and it just kind of throws me off, and I just did a different set than what I had practiced, and it went well, but it was just crazy how in the moment I was like, man, I fucking practiced that shit for like a month trying to get that timed, and then I just ended up abandoning it. And it's not just greed of venues, man. Sometimes it's also the greed of like business partners, man. I've had that happen to me where someone wants to portray themselves as part of the team, and so then you kind of let them in, and then they're not putting up their part. I've had where I partnered up with someone to do some comedy shows, and then the person not book anybody, and I'm stuck last minute. Like, hey, what's going on with the booking you're supposed to do? There's no flyers. There's nothing. You can't even give me a name of who's agreed to do the show, who's headlining, who's featuring. Like, you can't give me any of that information. What's going on here? And that person was kind of pretty. Unfortunately, that person kind of came off as, I wouldn't say that's what happened, but it kind of came off as like there was never any plan to book anybody. The plan was to push it out far enough where the show must go on, and they were going to book themselves. And so I just kind of was thrown off by that. But I think we talked about some of the difficulties in booking and working with clubs. And what would you say to people who are looking to who are doing comedy? They're getting confident. They want to go do shows, and there's always like this, and it's happened to me, that there's always people trying to like take the role of mentor, or someone trying to take the role of helping you out. But it doesn't take very long to be like, oh yeah, this person's trying to fuck me over, or this person's just doesn't have an interest in my outcome. It's just more like, hey, let me ride this person's coat real quick, or hey, let me see what this person's willing to do to get on a show or get on, because I've seen it myself in traveling. I've seen it in conversations with other people. I've had it happen to me. Like, it's just like, where you just stand there and you're like, I think I got fucked over here. Now that I come to realize it, like, hey, something ain't right here.
I've had it where, yeah.
I'll give you an example. I had a guy tell me, he's like, hey, I got a writing gig coming up, right? I got a writing gig on a Wednesday. You willing to do it? And I was like, yeah. What's it for? He's like, for Fox. I was like, oh, okay. And so we made a trip of it, So we get out there, I think, like 2 days early, because I figured, hey, just have a good time, hang out. We'll be out here and doing what we got to do. So first night, we kind of hang out. Second night, we go see a couple shows, go mingle with people. And I'm sitting there, and this other person's was intoxicated, maybe still intoxicated, I'm not too sure, but was having a conversation with somebody, and in that conversation they were talking about the writing gig, and they were talking about how they had no plans of going.
Oh wow.
They were like, yeah, so he's like, yeah, we got this gig tomorrow. He's like, how's that gonna go? He's like, I'm not fucking going. And I was kind of in my mind like, wait, what?
Right.
And I was like, that's the whole point I came out here, is like, I'm hoping to do this writing gig,
Right.
And so what's going on here? And so the person the next day tried to act like they slept through the situation. They're like, oh man, I stayed out and I slept through it, and we're good. And then they try to go about their like, hey man, we just missed it. Shit happens. But I was like, nah, like, like you completely wasted my time. And so I cut that person off after that. I was like, you know what? Like, this person, like, two things. One, you're not acting like a friend, and you're definitely not good for business if you're going to be missing gigs. So at this point, what's the point of our any type of relationship? Right? Friendship. You don't have any interest in my best. You don't have any stake in my best interest. And then second, if you're not going to be good for business, then what's the point of
Right.
going at this point? What would you say to people who are kind of gonna they're gonna get themselves in these situations? I mean, it's just bound to happen with how many shows and how many places you go. Is there any kind of like, what would you say, like a checklist that people should go through, or what kind of how do they roll with these punches? Because it's bound to happen, and you hear it from everybody.
It's dude, it's part of
It's a
life.
yeah, it's a part of the
It's
growth.
part of. I mean, it happens in anything in life. You know, friends do it. The same stupid shit. Even when it has nothing to do with business, you know. But the way I look at it is you got to be out for yourself, and I've learned that time and time again doing this. And, you know, I've had partners that hey, they're gung ho for one or two shows and then they disappear, and then or you know they're all in when they're on a show, but then when they're not on a show, they're like whatever. But I mean, it's part of life. It happens, but you just got to kind of look out for yourself. Basically, know that you know if you're gonna try to roll with something like that, keep your guard up, but don't shut yourself out because if it works like it should work, it could open a door for you. But also keep your guard up because at the same time, if they do something like your situation where you hear something and then the next day, sure enough, they start to flake, you got to cut them off quick. But the cool thing about this new group of comics is they're all pretty united to the same goal where they're working, they're helping each other out. I hear a lot of like, hey, that joke was funny, but hey, you know what if you threw this in? Like almost like it's these open mics are almost like writing things for them. And again, they're all helping each other out. They're all supportive. The comics go down there and they sit there and they watch and they pay attention and they laugh and they give feedback. Not like when you go to LA and open mic and all the comics are in the back of the room
It's
just
the
kind of like
worst. People on their
doing
phones.
whatever. Yeah, and it's like it's a whole different atmosphere here.
Well, one thing I've come across, and as just kind of a unique situation for myself, is that I've been hearing Spanish comics tell English jokes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't seen that yet, but
where I'm listening to someone on Netflix or Showtime or HBO or something, and I'm listening to the Spanish version, or the Spanish comedy, and then I'm like, I've heard that joke before, like, but it's
right,
just translated, like, hey, and I don't know if that's something that's a problem for comics out there, that they kind of I could see them getting away with that, right? Because if you're a Spanish
right,
speaker, like, how
because
do
you
you know
don't
Kevin
know,
Hart's
right?
jokes?
Yeah,
You don't know his jokes, and the
or
version of
vice
his
versa.
comedy that is translated in movies, which cannot it's a little off. It's not the same,
Yeah,
The voice is different, the pitch is different, the delivery is different.
right.
So it's hard to say that you're a fan of his and you're listening to another language. Um, but I've noticed that.
I can see that though, because definitely if you're only fluent in Spanish, you don't speak any English. If you hear a freaking white guy like me doing their jokes in English, you're not gonna know. And vice versa, if you only speak English, you don't know any Spanish, and then you run across a Spanish comedian, you don't know if they're doing the same jokes that you do. But what I have found interesting is, and when I say be original, write your stuff out, and then make sure it's yours. Try to make it something you experienced or something you thought of. Like I wrote a bunch of stuff and went to the comedy store and watched Jim, and I swear there was three jokes that I wrote of these people I'd never even heard of, and there was three jokes that were almost like word for word the way I wrote it, and it's just because it's a common premise. When you're first starting, you think of a lot of the same premises everyone else has thought of, and that's the first thing that comes to mind. But as you get more into it and you really truly start to write, you can either take that joke and expand on it, make it a totally different joke, with other jokes coming off of it or other jokes leading back to it, or you just wipe the joke out completely and maybe never do it again. But be original, write your material out, and then go to an open mic. The Well on Sunday night's the best to start. The best way to start. The comics that are running it are supportive. They laugh. They watch the show. They don't just run around and hang out outside or whatever. They actually support it, and a lot of the comics there give feedback. So if they really want to truly do it, that's how it would start now. Like we didn't have all these avenues when I started.
No, and I think that's what I think is changing is that
And
I
that's
think
how I got into booking. Honestly, I wanted to do shows, and there was no shows here.
that was pretty much how I wanted to.
So
I just wanted to be able to get booked. I wanted to be able to book people that I thought deserved more time. Now, some
Right.
of it did bite me in the ass. Like I told you, I had the person I booked and just went into rape
Yeah.
jokes, and then I had to have uh, I had to hear the owner.
Right.
Yeah, and that's an awkward conversation too because,
Was that at
that that
the?
that was the library,
I wasn't gonna say it, but yeah.
and so
That's
and
what I
so
thought. I
then
think I remember you telling me that before.
and so I was like, it was just like disappointing in that
Right.
situation because I was like, oh man, I try to vouch for you and I'm trying to help you out, and you kind of made me look bad, and
That's a
I
tricky.
don't know how to convey that.
It.
See, and that's another guy that I met him online. I had was posting when I was doing more comedy. Like the last 3 years, I just was working and I wasn't doing any comedy
Right.
at all. If I did, it was maybe like someone I knew booked me to go do the show somewhere with them or something. But it was nothing like where I was going out of my way to like have a tour or have shows in line.
Right.
And so I had to take a kind of a hiatus. But oh fuck, oh yeah, the one dude, Anthony,
Uh,
he showed up to open mic. He showed up at the library open mic,
oh yeah.
and then he was like, "Hey," he's like, I came to see you." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I saw you online. I thought it was funny. I thought I'd come check out the show, man. I thought you were funny." I was like, "All
Nice.
right, cool." So he checked it out, and I think I told Chris Flail. I was like, "Hey, Chris Flail, like, want to hear some geek shit?" And he's like, "What?" I was like, "That fool said that he was here to see me." He's like, "And?" I was like, "I just thought I never heard that before. That's cool to me. That's cool to me. Someone say that to you and like, hey,
Right.
I, you made me laugh in such a way that I made plans for my day.
Yeah.
You know." I was like, "That's cool. I really like that." And then I saw him at the well do some comedy, and I was like, "Hey, look at this guy. That's cool." And then I saw him at the Jiu-Jitsu, and I was like, "Look at this guy. All
He's
right,
doing
he
well.
was doing well, man." I
He's
was like,
funny.
"That's what's up." He went
He's
from
got
I'm gonna go listen to somebody to like, I was sitting down to listen to him. Full
yeah, that's
circle. Show was
crazy
dope.
because those guys, like when I first came back, I did a show for Alex and LaFonda, and a couple. Well, Julian was on that show, and then there was a couple of the locals that I'd never met before. Like it was a whole new crowd for me, except for I mean, obviously I knew Alex, right? But the rest of the comics, I didn't know who they were, and like they were all like pretty much brand new. And it was a good show. And then they're like, "Hey, what are you doing after the show? Like come hang out. Like we're doing a pop in, like a pop up show down the street at a barber shop." I'm like, "What?" And I went down there, dude. There's like 40 comics there, and they had probably 20 or 30 normal people there to watch, and in a
Normal
freaking
people.
barber shop, dude. You know what I mean? Just
Fucking
crazy.
normies.
Yeah, but they were. That's where their bad neighbor came from because they were doing pop ups. Like the
So
first one they did was in their apartment complex, and then they did one like in a freaking parking lot somewhere, and then they did the barber shop. Now they're doing the well, and they're doing well. I mean, they're packing the place out, dude. It's crazy. They got a killer following.
going back to that topic about venturing out and trying to find a place to do a comedy play. Obviously, these guys are doing a barber shop.
Right.
I had the idea to do I said it joking, and the person I was booking a local comic, and they were like, "Where's it at?" I was like, "The laundromat," and then they never responded after that.
That's funny.
But I just did it to fuck with them to see like, hey, were you down to do a show?
Right.
Like, who, do you want the mic or do you want the venue or
Well,
whatever?
that's like you watch like Adam Hunter. Adam Hunter's funny as hell. I love that dude. I've
That guy's so underrated. He's actually he's
oh yeah,
touring with Pete Russell Pete right now.
yeah.
Or I
Russell
don't know if it's
Peters.
one specific show or if he's touring with them, but
Yeah, no, he is very underrated, very funny. But him and Brad Williams and a couple other comics went out and made their own little what was it called, comedy sabotage or something like that, or ambush comedy. And they'd show
yeah.
up
There's
somewhere and just start doing comedy in
he
like a
still
gas
posts that
station.
shit. That's just
Yeah,
I don't know how old that is, but he'll post it
it's
over and
pretty
over. It's
old, but it's
hilarious.
funny as shit.
Those are pretty funny. Oh, so going back to the topic, so what's your thoughts on it, or how do you navigate this whole like I was talking to them first, or I had plans of doing a show there first, or you just overheard that I was doing it and you came in and took it because I've had that happen with the Boydston situation, which I mean this isn't gossip. This is conversations we've all had together and gone back and forth with each other. But he dropped the ball. He
Yeah,
was just like, hey, can you do First Friday? Well, how about Sunday?
right. Yeah,
Well, I need you to do First Friday. Well, how about the 15th?
right. See, I don't know if I've had that happen to me. Nobody said anything.
I remember. I remember because I see Bruce is gonna be at
I saw that.
at
Yeah,
the thing. I'm still remembering the whole drama with him, and like he sent me a whole. I mean, for people listening, like I think as comics, we riff on each other and we bullshit with each other, but like nobody gives a fuck about any of this shit, you know. Like it's all funny over time.
Yeah.
But I remember he sent me this big old fucking message on Facebook saying that, you know, he was gonna have me banned and I would never work in Hollywood. I was like, well, I never have, and I don't really expect
Right.
it, you know.
He's doing well though.
Yeah, I remember he
He's
was.
doing well.
I think he was working his way up at the comedy store. I remember
I've
that.
seen it. He's hosted a few nights, like the pop up and
Yeah,
whatnot, and that's big. I mean, that's kind of how you get your name out there, get started.
I think with anything, you know, you come into comedy and you ruffle feathers, and there's these groups that get away get away with they have their pet peeves, whatever you want to call it. But I think over time, even if you do kind of take things personal or you make the wrong decision as far as like being greedy and stuff like that, over time it's like
Yeah.
they're just learning pains.
Right. Well,
That
he did, and I'll give him props because he had the balls to do it. He said, you know what? He came out. He started out, where everyone did, doing open mics and whatnot. Had some rough times, had some good times, and then he said, you know what? I'm gonna go to LA and do comedy,
Yeah, I
and
remember
that's how
that's
I'm
what he was.
going.
That's
And I was
exactly what
like,
people said about him when I first heard
I
of
was
him.
tripping. I was like, okay, well, good luck, type thing. But yeah, I mean, he's made a name for himself. He's done good. You gotta
I
give props.
saw I saw a video he had put up where they were hanging out with Andy
And he did.
Andy Dick, and they were fucking with him. He was all faded and shit.
Uh,
Oh, that shit was hilarious. But yeah. That whole thing, man. That was just like fucking trauma shit.
right. But I want to get more back. I want to get mine going again and get more back into like the local stuff, the community, and not just comedy, but like local, you name it.
Yeah, mine is mostly anybody I really followed on Instagram. I pretty much just hit up anybody who I already
Right.
know was a comic, already know was doing something. So that's comedy wise. And then other than that is the art. I think that's one thing like during COVID, I started going to art classes and then I started meeting some people and got involved in art, and that was a good like timing where I had to work a lot, but I had
You
like
don't
this
need
free
art
time.
classes to do graffiti.
Huh?
You don't need art classes to do graffiti.
What do you call it? That's funny. One of the guys actually does a lot of graffiti stuff.
Uh,
Um, but through that, I started like kind of looking at art a lot, and so I started following certain people, and then like a few of them I hit. I was like, hey, I've been watching your stuff. I'd like to interview you and do it. So I got a couple people from Mexico, a couple people from Vegas, LA, just all different spots that
right.
I'll be interviewing at first, just people I know,
That's cool.
and then hopefully eventually, if it grows enough, then I could just start asking a little bit more like known people, more
Right.
people like, especially with coming. I know I sent a message to Simone. She's doing a show for CMAC
Right.
at the Fox. I sent her a message like, is she gonna respond? I doubt it,
Right.
but it's like, hey, fuck it, I'm just throwing the net out there, see who I get, and then
Right. And that's what we did. Like I reached out to Christian Buckingham, thinking after going on Inkmaster, being on there twice, like thinking he's big time and whatever. And then he messaged me back, was like, dude, here's my number, call me, let's talk about it. And I'm like, cool. And it was just like we hit it off right off, like, and then he was so cool on the podcast and so easy to talk to and stuff. Not big game at all. Like nothing went to his head. I mean, he's cocky, he's arrogant, but he's good at his art. So I get it, and just but it was cool to be able to talk to a guy like that. That you see and you watch and you're like, fuck, I hope this guy wins. You're rooting for him all year, and then you get to kick it with him, and it's like, some people they always say don't ever meet your heroes, and a lot of times it's true, but there's those people out there that are humble, like Joey Diaz, dude.
mm-hmm.
The first time I booked Joey Diaz, I called him up and said, hey, I'm doing a charity gig. I'd love to have you come down and do a set. And this is right before he had that big movie with Stallone, the boxing movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he came down, dude. First he called me because I sent him my number. I'm like, hey, if you're interested, shoot me a text and we can talk about it. And so he calls me, dude, and he was like my best friend on the phone, like, Siefert, what are you doing? Like, well. And then it was cool because I booked him, and then I tried to pay him because we had a budget for that show, even though it was a charity event. He goes, dude, I don't want the money. I go, no, it's budgeted. They gave, this is outside of what they're doing. This is for you coming. He goes, dude, just give it back to him. I don't want it. I'm like, you sure? He's like, yeah, dude, just give it back to him. I'm good. I'm like, cool, all right. So, I was like, damn, like for a comic to do that, I'm like, You know, I know he makes plenty of money. You
Yeah.
know, but I'm like, that's cool, you know. And so then we a few months went by, and then Philippe Esparza ended up winning Last Comic Standing. Well, a month or two after that ended, he was here at the Fox, and Joey was his feature. And I'm like, do I go? Do I want to? I wanted to go, but I think something was gonna. I think I might have had plans, so I never bought a ticket. So that day, dude, all of a sudden, I look Joey Diaz. What? Hey, what's up, Joey? Siefert, what are you doing tonight? Nothing. Why? Well, you're gonna come hang out with me at the Fox. I got 2 tickets for you at the door, so come and hang out. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I went, hung out with him and Philippe, and
That's what's
excuse me,
up.
a couple of it was like, man, we just like he was cool as hell, and I'm like, man, this is great. And then we went to the comedy show that night. We did the main room, and somebody I'd watched a long time. Freaking Gallagher was there. You know, I watched him when I was a kid. I watched him, and I thought maybe he might be cool. That guy was such a douchebag, dude. Oh my god,
Damn.
like he was horrible. And it was to the point where I get there's a guy there named Davey Webster. I think he's got cerebral palsy or something of that nature where he's kind of crippled. And but he's funny. He's a great comic, great dude. Like you talk to him, it's like nothing ever happened to him. And he's funny on stage, and he's just a good dude. I guess they were in there doing a show, and Gallagher's ripping on him from the crowd, just talking shit to him and making fun of him, and then went up after him and made fun of him for his disability and whatnot. So like now everybody hates him, right? And so if you remember, he had a heart attack on stage,
Mm-hmm.
like in Minneapolis or wherever he was. And this was after that had happened, and we're sitting there, and Ernesto was with me, and we were down there, and Joey I think was there too. And we went out on the patio, and that's where he was at, and we're like, oh, dude, that's Gallagher. Like I was like, hey, I watched you as a kid. Hey, nice to meet you. And dude looked like he just crawled out of a dumpster, right? Smelled horrible. Like he's like, yeah, whatever. Shook my hand. I'm like, okay. And then Ernesto started talking to him. So then he thought we were trying to be buddy buddies with him. So he follows us back to the green room. We didn't had no idea what was going on. None of this had happened. And Berger was running the show, and he's sitting in the green room. And I walk in, and I sit down. And then like maybe a minute later, Ernesto walks in, and Gallagher comes in right behind him. And he's like, "Who the fuck's gonna get me high?" And everybody got up and left, right? And I'm like, "What the hell?" Except for Berger. Berger's sitting there on the couch, and I'm sitting there, and I look at him. He goes, "Man, fuck this guy." I go, "What?" I go, "What happened?" He goes, "Hold on." And he's like, what is everyone leaving for? And Berger looks at him and goes, "Dude, why don't you go back and die on stage and finish the job this time? Nobody likes you, dude. Get the fuck out of here." And I'm like, whoa.
Damn. Just
Like,
try to send
yeah.
someone into depression and
And
shit.
I'm like, dude, wow. And then he left, and then Berger told me the story about how he shit all over Davey. And I'm like, fuck that guy. And, I was the same way, but I was like, the guy's a total douchebag. I'm like, that's 30 seconds of my life I'll never get back by shaking his hand, you know what I mean? But I've
There's
gone
a,
down there and met guys like Nick Swartzen. Nick Swartzen's cool as hell.
yeah, that
You
guy went
know,
through some shit recently too, man. That's crazy. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
What I think we'll wrap up right now. What do you call it? Something that I noticed for like comics that are trying to go up. I had this other comic tell me he booked some locals from here from Bakersfield. He said he booked like 7 dudes from out here, and that he went out. But I guess they were expecting like I guess the crowd you would get here in Kern County, right? You get like mostly white, and then not that it's always like that, but I guess that would kind of the average, I guess, is in the odds of more white Caucasian people. And so I don't know if they were expecting that. And this was I think the uh what's that place? Jay Brown, Jay Brown, not Jay Brown. What the heck's the name of the club in L.A. in Inglewood?
oh,
Um, J Spot.
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Is it Inglewood something like that, right?
I think it's down that area somewhere. Yeah,
I can't. Well, anyways.
I've never been there, but yeah,
So
I know.
I guess this comedian who was booking took down all these comedians on there, and according to him, none of the comics wanted to take the stage. They all were scared they were gonna get booed. They weren't used to a black crowd. I don't know how true it is. I don't know how nervous they were about it, or why some of them didn't go up, or how true it is that they refused to go up. But what would you say for someone who gets themselves in that situation? Right, you're a comic,
I've done it to myself.
really.
Yes, I Deacon was running a show. Him and Jones, a comedian, they were doing a show out at a pizza place out on my side of town, and they were, they were drawing the old school black crowd, like the people I went to high school with,
Mm-hmm.
South High guys and gals, and and it was a cool crowd. Don't get me wrong, they were great people, but I went up there trying to thinking it was funny, going I was gonna be the host, or yeah, I was gonna be the host, and I went out and the first thing I said was, "I bet you are wondering what this white motherfucker's doing up here," and they just unleashed on me, and I was like, "Oh shit, what did I just do?" And I just lost everything. I was just like, "All right, I'm gonna bring your comic up. All right, Deacon, you're hosting the rest of the night. I'm done." And it was just I set myself up for failure. So you gotta go with any show, any attitude of, or any thoughts of bombing and talking about it, you're gonna bomb, guaranteed.
It'll fuck
I've
with you, man.
seen comics go up and go, yeah, yeah, good luck, we're gonna bomb tonight. You know what I mean? And then they go out and shit the bed, and it's like I did that to myself, and I put myself in that spot. So now I tell everyone, you know what? You're gonna do well. You're gonna go out there and kill, and then because otherwise you're gonna get yourself in it. As soon as that first joke doesn't hit, you're gonna backpedal the rest of the way, and you're gonna just make go farther and further back, and it's gonna be a horrible experience. So I remember shortly after that happened, we were at the Nile. We got booked for this gig. This guy, he was an LA guy, but he was like he had this idea of is when first all the podcasting and all that stuff started taking off. He's like, I'm gonna do a show at the Nile. We're gonna have an crowd, but we're gonna video it. We're gonna telecast it over like podcast it, whatnot thing. And we're like, all right, cool. That'll be kind of cool. So we get there and there's 6 people there, and that was the only crowd that was there. And it was at the Nile. You remember how big the Nile was?
I've never been in there,
You
but
never
I know
been
it's
there? Oh,
huge.
okay,
It's
it's
a
huge.
church,
They hold like
It's
400
a church
people.
now, so it's big.
Yeah, I get like 400 people in there, and it was packed. But you're up on a stage that's probably 5, 6 feet up, and then the floor is open in the front, so you can bring tables and chairs down if you want, but they hardly ever did. Like when I ran my shows, I brought all the tables and chairs down to the front, the first 2 sections to try to get all the crowd in the front. Well, they had big tables set up across the rail, but it was like 20 or 30 feet away from the stage. And so there were 6 people in there, and I'm like, this is horrible. And me and Jim were there, and I was like, I think Johnny's was there too, and everybody was doing okay, but with 6 people, it's like, dude, really? And I was featuring for Jim. Jim was headlining, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it, Jim, we're gonna kill this bitch right now. We're gonna kill it. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go right now and kill it. And he's like, yep, you got it. And like, I just talked myself into it, and it went out there, and the first joke hit, and they were laughing. There wasn't all that energy, but they were laughing, so I could see them. And then I just went and rolled, and it was great. Like, but I have done that where I set myself up to fail, and it happens easily.
I
So
did
I just say take that positive all the time.
just push through.
I tell you another instance where we did a show at Shamrocks for Just Dave. Remember Just Dave?
This sounds familiar.
He's from Fresno. Well, he lives in the Bay Area now, but he was doing a show at Shamrocks on Rosedale,
Yeah.
like Callaway and
Yeah.
Callaway and Hageman or something like that by the McDonald's. And he was doing a show in there. It was hit or miss whether the crowd was there to have fun and drink, or they were there to have fun and listen to comedy. And the last night I did for him there, they weren't there to hear comedy at all. They did not want comedy going. They were talking over everybody and giving like a lot of crap to the comics. And I was supposed to do 15 that night. And he looks at me and like he went up and died as a host. The opening comic went up and died. He went back up, died again. The comic that was in front of me was up there dying. He goes, I'm gonna light you about 12, okay? And then just run whatever. I go, no, dude, I'm not doing 15. He goes, what? I go, I'm doing like 4.5. And I was kind of joking, but kind of not joking, because everybody was dying. And I'm like, he's like, no, whatever, dude. I go, yeah, 4.5. Like, kind of joke. It's kind of semi-joking. So he goes up again. He dies right in front of me. Gives me a terrible introduction because nobody's paying attention. So I go up there. I run my opening joke that usually hits, and it dies. So I try the second joke, it dies. I try a third joke, it dies. Finally, I'm just like, you know what, guys? You guys were here. You guys are whatever. I go, at least Lincoln died in front of a better crowd than this. And I just dropped the mic and walked off. And he looks, and he's like, 4.5. And I'm like, I told you. But I had set myself up to fail because everybody else was failing. But I don't think even that night, if I went up with a positive attitude, it wouldn't have mattered. But because even
Those are the hard, like where there's just nothing you can really do. And
nothing.
those happen. I had that happen. I got booked by this guy named Big Mike from LA.
I know Big Mike.
Uh, he
Rest in
I
peace, by
did.
the way.
Shut up.
You know he died?
No, I
He,
was
he
wondering
died
why
a
because
couple
he
years
had.
ago.
Wow.
I think he died during COVID, like when COVID was a big thing.
Black dude, right?
Yeah,
Tall.
Big Mike, Mike Mitchell.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
booked him
man.
quite a few times.
I didn't know.
He was one
Damn.
where I booked him, and then I would pay him. But then when I try to get him to book me, he's like, "Well, you got to bring 10 people," and I'm like, "Dude, it's in LA. I don't know 10 people in LA. It's not like I'm gonna bring a caravan
That's funny you
down."
said that because he kind of did that to me.
I'm like,
I was at the
"Really?"
haha. I did an open mic at the haha. Um, was it an open mic? I want to say it was an open mic. No. Big Mac had another guy had booked me to do the haha.
Uh-huh.
So I show up to the haha. I do the show, and then Big Mike hits me up after. He's like, "Hey, the homie who runs the show is a homie of mine, of his, and he said that your set was pretty good. Would you do one of my shows?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I went out there. It was called like the Cotton Village or some shit. I forgot what the fuck it was called out on the way to LA. And that room was the worst, bro.
Was it?
Like it was one of those situations where the owner probably books you and gives you a cut of probably the alcohol.
Right.
There was no door, right? There was no charge at the door. It was just go in there. But the people there, they didn't come for a comedy show.
Right.
They're there every week getting fucked up with their friends. And so like then we pop up trying to do a show. They were like literally couples at the table were trying to have their own conversations and like try to like shut us up to
Right.
like have their own conversation.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit! I had a friend show up and he was like, "Yeah, so you're taking comedy more serious?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm starting to book my own show, book shows now, and I'm gonna do a couple. I try to do one like at least once a month, twice a month." And so he goes out there to see me. He brings a date, and he said afterwards he told the girl, he's like, "Yeah, he's usually funny."
Oh, that's the thing with like restaurants
It
doing
was
those kind
just
of places. If you do it free, people are gonna show up to eat. They're not there to go to see comedy. You do it at a comedy club, and they know they're going to a comedy show. You know what I mean?
there's
But
some
you do it at
structure there, you know.
Yeah, you do it at a restaurant. They're not there for comedy. They're there to eat. And
What's your like worst bomb? Where like
me
kind of
personally,
yeah, where like not like oh a bomb I had a bad night, but like the bomb where like you question like damn that was bad.
well, definitely the second night I ever did comedy. And like I said, but then I sat back and realized I'm like there was only like 8 people there, and they weren't there for comedy. So it was like,
Mine was I was opening up for Spanky Hayes from
uh,
Wild and Out. He had a show in Lancaster. So he shows up here in town and he's meeting with the comic here in town. They're having a conversation. They invite me over and we're hanging out, talking, bullshitting. And then the guy goes, "Hey, so and so says you do comedy. I need someone to open up. You want to open up?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, I'll open up."
uh,
Mind you, it's like
was
7:30.
it at the event center, like the Rabobank?
No, it was in Lancaster.
No, I know, but
Oh
was
no,
it?
it was at a dispensary.
Oh, okay.
It was at a dispensary, and so I'm like, all right. I was like, well, it's like 7:30, right? Like 7:32 or something. It was like a weird number. I was like 7:32. I was like, what time's the show? I was like, cause you got to get to Lancaster. He's like, oh, I think the show starts at 7:30. And I'm like, what? I was like, it's 7:30 now. He's like, ah, yeah, we should probably start going. And so I'm laughing,
Holy
right?
fuck.
We didn't leave until like 9:30.
Oh shit.
We leave at 9:30. We get to Lancaster. We're at the show. The DJ's telling me to go up probably around 11 something,
Uh,
right? And I remember I had never like it was just one. It was like the contact high, man. That was one thing. It was just fucking people
right.
smoking in that motherfucker, and so I was like, okay, like fuck, I feel a little weird, and I walk up, I walk up, and I'm like, the DJ guy's like, okay, what's your name? I was like, Iceberg, man, blah blah blah. He's like, okay. He's like, all right, I'm gonna do this. I'll do an intro. I'll call you up. You grab the mic. You do your show. I was like, all right. And so he does his thing, and then he's looking at me, and I'm like staring at him. And he's like, you need me to call you up again? And I was like, oh shit! Like I had spaced out. I spaced out, and I didn't even catch it that he called me up. And so he calls me up again. I grab the mic, and everybody's still talking. Everybody's still passing their joints, and I'm just kind of like, I'm like, oh, wait, how do I start the show? You know,
Right.
I just draw, I was just blank. I just blank. And so I didn't know what else to do but other than to just start my set. So I just started my set and I just kind of plowed through it, not really waiting for like crowd work or waiting.
Right.
I just was like, I'm just going to kick it out because nobody
Uh,
gave a fuck that I was talking.
Right.
and like the vendors, the potheads, everybody's sitting there. Mind you, it was thin crowd. I think at one point, right, people thought were getting a show at, I think it was gonna start at 8 or something,
Uh,
and motherfucker didn't show up until like 11 something. And so I watched that. I watched the crowd, and I was just like, man, I'm fucking bombing, man. And so I just kept plowing through. I went through my jokes. I kind of timed them the way I wanted to time them, but I was just kind of like, when I was done, it was just like, all right, have a good night, guys.
uh,
Like it's just like, oh, it's so dead. I was like,
that's how
it's
that
so
night.
fucking horrible. Oh, I felt so
Yeah,
bad.
that was how that night at Shamrocks was. It was just like, this is terrible. And I remember Burger. We were talking about that one time, and he told me that he's like, dude, you should just. He's like, if you ever bomb, say this. And so I remembered it. It was in the back of my mind the whole time. So I was like, man, at least Lincoln died in front of a better crowd than this, and nobody was like, whatever.
I did another one in Vegas at the Hookah Lounge.
Uh,
It's a the radio guy Mike P. He has a Tuesday night open mic there. I think it's called like the Blue Hookah or Blue Lagoon Hookah or some shit like that. Um, it's right behind it, like a famous taco spot. But anyways, um, I show up there, and again I show up with Little G, and Little G is like, hey, we're gonna go do this open mic. And I was like, all right. So we go. I meet Mike P, and they're busting my balls, bro. You're gonna fucking bomb, bro. You're gonna fucking bomb, bro. And I was just like, why are they fucking with me like that? You know? And I was just like, whatever. And so I was like, all right, I'll show them. I'll do a good set. And I didn't know this, but they were doing kind of like the Sandman kind of shit, where like if you start bombing, they like boo you off stage hard,
uh,
bro. And that really fucked with me because next,
okay.
I'm standing in line, and I see the first guy go up. He's a little scrawny white dude. It looks like an open mic, right?
Yeah.
First guy goes up. It's all black crowd, and then except for the cooks, all the cooks are Mexican as fuck.
Right.
And I go, I see the first guy goes up. He's not even like 2 minutes, not even a minute into his set, and they hit the fucking boom. They hit the button, and it plays the Law and Order music. And it goes dun dun dun, and then the crowd just boos you, and then the fucking Mike P cuts her mic and tells you to get the fuck off stage,
Wow.
and then just rips how fucking shitty your set was. And so I was like, oh my god, like I don't want to get that. I don't want to get like this validation that I suck or something, you know.
Right.
And so I was like, oh fuck. So the second guy goes up, swole ass big old black dude goes up, does 2 3 jokes that just fucking kill. They're doing well, and he gasses out. Fucking just fucking just boom, just gasses out, bro.
Right.
He gets the fucking music. Tell him to get the fuck off stage.
Uh-huh.
Then they have another dude go up, same thing, get the fuck off stage. Then it's my turn. I go up. I start gassing out. Like I told a couple jokes, I start like getting nervous and I forget what my set is. I just go into like these jokes. I could feel the crowd just like dying off,
Right.
and I could feel like in my mind, I could feel like his fingers like hovering over the button and shit, like just kind of about to push that shit.
Right.
And then I told a couple jokes, and then it came back. Everybody started laughing. I was like, oh fuck, thank God I didn't get. Then my time was out. I got the light, and I was like, cool. I fucking made it through it. I got off stage. A cook came out, was like, hey bro, that shit was fucking funny when you were talking about this and that. I was just like, oh shit, man. Like I felt validated. I felt good, but those moments of like, fuck, I'm losing them. I'm gonna get the music. I'm gonna get the music. Like, don't get the music. Don't get the fucking music. Like, just whatever. Just don't get the fucking music. Those have been my worst.
When they got the music, did they keep trying until the booze just took them out, or what?
I think no. Once you hear it, it just fucks with you. Just instantly go like, what do I do now? Like, do I keep going or are you kicking me off? You know, everybody kind of just had that. You could see it in their face. Like, one
Was,
one guy, he kept hitting the button, like telling him, like, hey, get the fuck off stage.
right. Well, that's like in Atlanta. Like my buddy Smokey D, he's in LA now, but he was from Atlanta, and they would like, he would go to the black shows, and they were tough. If you weren't funny, they would all pull out their car keys and just start rattling, like, and that was your indication. Hey, get out because you suck. He said it was brutal though, because people would see it. They were like,
People
they
love
were
it
afraid of
though.
it
People
though.
love it. That whole hookah place is what it's about. People love to fucking talking about meeting your
But you know what though? I kind of think, dude, like I would kind of want to do that just to see where I fit in.
Yeah.
Because like especially because you know every crowd's different,
Yeah.
and especially when you guys get you got you don't want to divide it by race, but you know the black crowd likes comedy a certain way.
Yeah, there's definitely
You know,
yeah, I wouldn't put it, and I've said it to people. Black comedy is quick.
it's
It's
quick
very
witted.
quick,
It's
very
real
quick.
like
There's
a whole
no
lot of
long ass story,
right,
none of that shit. It's get to the fucking point.
right.
Um, have you heard about what happened with Ari Spears and Tiffany Haddish? What they're saying right now?
I haven't been following, but it wouldn't surprise me.
They're saying if I heard correctly, it was just a quick bit that I heard, but apparently they're being accused by like a child actor of like being um, sexually abused by Tiffany
Oh
Haddish and
god.
Ari Spears on like on the set of like like a B-list movie, like or a private movie
Uh-huh.
that they made back in the day. Apparently, like there was like no supervision or something, and then like the I don't know how long ago it is. Like if this person's like an adult now,
Uh-huh.
but they're like saying like, hey, I was like
I haven't
touched
heard about it.
inappropriately by Ari Spears and Tiffany Haddish. Like I think the skit was like in like an adult content skit,
Right.
and then on
Just
top of
whatever.
that, like they who knows, who knows what they were trying to
Right.
make funny and then came off as a certain way, or the child's like recalling it a different way, or they did shit like that. Like who the fuck knows, man? But the reason I bring that up is I've had where I'm talking to somebody and they want me to do a skit, and they're like, I remember this one guy was like telling me to do a skit where like he wanted me to say the N word, and I was like, nah, I'm good. Like I'm good. Nah, bro, it'll be funny because I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, until because you won't get the backlash. No.
I was like, I'm
I
good.
still want to do that thing we talked about. The write a script about where we used to work.
We oh yeah 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 yeah
Dude,
yeah.
it's so like, and especially now after COVID hit, dude, it went so like people are just so sketchy now.
COVID was crazy, bro.
So sketchy now.
I had a even with me, man. I had like coworkers that I had a call where we were working from home, and bro, around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I'll be like, this fool's buzzed. This
I didn't mind
motherfucker's.
COVID though because like, dude, like I was already getting tired of people, right? And then they told me to stay home, and I'm like, fuck yes, vacation. I don't have to go out and deal with nobody. Thank you.
I,
And
I
after a while, it got boring. But
I had a I had another person like again same thing, like they were talking about like filling in some spots for like skits and on the show they were gonna
uh,
do or a movie, and they were like, oh, you look Jewish and you look Arabic, like I want to do a skit where you're like a terrorist, and I was just like, I'm good,
uh,
like I'm good, and they're like, no, it's gonna be funny because of this, it'll be funny because of that, and I was like, I'm good.
we had talked about
And the reason I bring it up is like, there's again wanting to do comedy, wanting to be a part of the scene, wanting to like be included in everything, but also it's like some of these people don't have the best interest. Like they rather have
right.
a funny skit and take a chance than to be like, oh, this shit's gonna fuck your career over,
So we
20 years from now.
had
But okay, so we talked about your show, we talked about the things going on, and then I think we're good there. So I think I'm just gonna cut the audio and we'll have video just
sweet.
of us cleaning up and sweeping up, getting out of here, and then we'll go from there. So I'll go ahead and end the recording.